Welcome to Military Miniatures magazine. In this issue, we are going to paint an antique 1:100 scale ROCO German Panther tank in a red oxide primer base color with a dark yellow disruptive pattern applied in the field. While later ROCO vehicles were produced in HO model railroad scale, this Panther is nicely compatible with Flames of War 1:100 scale figures, vehicles, guns, and equipment. We began by spraying the vehicle Vallejo 70982 Cavalry Brown, which nicely matches the red oxide primer of German equipment. For the purpose of this exercise, we refrained from tinting the base color for aerial perspective, so that we can use the Panther as a reference when we paint properly tinted vehicles in the future. Next, we sketched the dark yellow disruptive pattern onto the red oxide primer base using a soft pencil. To guide us, we followed photos and video footage of a captured Panther displayed at Bovington Tank Museum. Using pre-tinted Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2, it is so much easier to now fill in the sketched pattern rather than brush it on freehand. While the Bovington Panther appears to have been repainted not too long ago, and it may not have looked like this when it was originally captured, the pattern itself is plausible and it does look quite striking. The ROCO model is a late-war Panther Ausführung G with a so-called chin mantlet, which was produced from September 1944. This late in the war, the German war economy experienced many shortages. When dark yellow paint ran out, vehicles left the factory unpainted, sporting only their red oxide primer base. Such vehicles were not repainted in the field, although they would receive a disruptive pattern of dark yellow and/or olive green camouflage paste if available. Using golden acrylics 1370 titanium buff, we are now going to line all the edges where the disruptive pattern meets the red oxide primer. For reasons of aerial perspective, we never use pure white on small-scale vehicles like this one. Unfortunately, the decals we will be using later are printed in pure black and white, and they don't look realistic in this scale. ROCO must have sold thousands of these small Panther tanks, certainly a lot more than the Wehrmacht ever had in World War II. To this day, large numbers of snap-together ROCO Panthers are sold at flea markets and in online marketplaces for very little money. While there are more accurate models of the Panther tank available today, the ROCO Panther is perfectly okay for wargaming. Once all the colors had been blocked in, the vehicle was sealed with gloss acrylic varnish, ready to accept a pinpoint wash. We mix our own wash from ivory black and burnt umber, heavily diluted with water and a little ox gall as a flow improver. The translucent pinpoint wash is used to shade panel lines, as well as the edges around hatches, vision blocks, tools, ventilators, and any other raised parts of the Panther's superstructure. Mistakes made at this stage are either wiped off immediately, or they may be fixed later when we place highlights. On this Panther, the pin wash can be done quickly because 1:100 scale vehicles show so much less fine detail than larger HO scale tanks. As we discovered in a previous tutorial, the selective pin wash is cleaner than an overall quick shade, and it does not result in a noticeable hue shift of dark yellow to green. You may have noticed that figures and vehicles tend to look rather ugly in the middle of the painting process. When we watch our own footage of this, it is difficult not to be disappointed along the way and even consider putting the project aside, because disaster seemingly looms ahead. It is only when we stop our mind from ruminating about the end result that we can actually get into the flow of painting and enjoy that journey in the present moment. When the final matte varnish goes on, suddenly the vehicle begins to grow on us and starts to look like a piece of equipment worthy of the gaming table. Once the pin wash is completed, the vehicle needs to be left to dry overnight before it can be sprayed with matte varnish. Our next step involves setting highlights and removing pin wash from any flat surfaces we shaded inadvertently. For these highlights, we tint Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2 with another 20% XF2 White. Using this highlight color, we accentuate tiny raised parts like hinges, handrails, tool racks, and the like. Again, there are not many tiny parts on a small 1:100 scale vehicle like this ROCO Panther, so there is little work to do. Next, we mix a highlighted version of our red oxide primer by adding a little titanium buff to our original cavalry brown paint. This highlight color is applied to any tiny raised parts that are covered by the red oxide primer base color of our tank. Finally, the tank tracks need to be weathered in a color matching our tabletop terrain, and we're done. So here's our painted Panther Ausführung G again in its striking red oxide primer and dark yellow disruptive camouflage pattern. While this unusual pattern does date the Panther as a very late war vehicle, the pattern is a must-have for wargamers. Thank you for watching. For more information, you're welcome to visit our website at miniatures.de.